She was a starlet who became one of the greatest actresses of Hollywood, being nominated many times for the Academy Awards and only winning two throughout her career. From starlet to legend, she was able to work with various genres from horror to historical films, becoming a rival to many actresses in Hollywood based on her career within her youth. This is Bette Davis, and this is her basic biography. Early life. Bette Davis was born on the 5th of April 1908 in Massachusetts, USA. Both her mother and father would divorce whilst growing up, and her mother would look after her whilst being a single mother. She would attend school at a young age, with spending her time in school productions and even perform in front of peers who enjoyed her performances at school. Betty Davis grew up with her younger sister whilst attending the same schools and even joining the same productions on stage whilst outside of school. She was able to excel in being an actress and with having a chance to become an actress in her later career rather than her pastime whilst studying. Betty Davis would move to New York after her graduation from the theater and dance schools that she was able to become an actress. She would work as an actress on Broadway. She was able to perform on stage to many people who took up roles on stage with her. That made her one of the another leading lady or actress on stage during the 1920s. Luckily, this made her become noticed in Hollywood before the collapse of the New York stock market and the full force of the Great Depression in full bloom, which had affected new actors and actresses who were looking for their big breaks. From this encounter of Hollywood, she would able to find new opportunities and even become a starlet on the silver screen. Acting career. The production studio that offered Betty Davis the opportunity to make her Hollywood starlet dream was Universal Studios, as she was able to be given a contract for her stage role and even stage acting to becoming a new actress and leading lady of Hollywood. Her first movie was called Bad Sister, which would be a movie that would launch her career, and she would have other movie studios offering her new contracts to become their leading lady and even their flagship actress to promote their movie studios with movies and productions based on war movies to crime dramas. More movies were made with Betty Davis in mind, as she was able to work in the 1930s as a young starlet based on her Hollywood career. She was able to be signed by Warner Brothers Studios on her first movie with them, basically becoming a promoter of their production studios during the Great Depression. She played a troubled teenager in the movie Dangerous that would actually help her become a icon to most teenagers at the time, being in the same position as she was in the current climate, and even winning an Academy Award in 1935. She won her second Academy Award in the late 1930s as a Southern Belle during the 1800s in the movie called Jezebel. New starlet of Hollywood. Betty Davis became a young starlet that Hollywood needed and would work with more production companies that were away from modern dramas and more in historical dramas to war films that were popular at the time. She pressed to become more of an older female character for new movie roles, as the next movies she would that would be released were based on World War II. Yet some were based on the modern era, historical eras. These movies were I'm sorry, Juarez in 1939, starring alongside with Paul Mooney, who was playing Al Capone in the movie Scarface in 1932. and then starring as Queen Elizabeth I in the movie The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex with action star Errol Flynn. The 1940s would have Bette Davis working with Warner Brothers Studios again and still becoming a bigger actress than before. During the Second World War. During the war, she was able to help the United States by supporting the troops who were fighting and even selling war bonds to many soldiers who needed the money towards weaponry and even assist and supplies during their efforts. She even still acted in Hollywood with more movies in different genres from film noirs and even to westerns whilst the war was waging. Later on in the 1950s, she was able to go back to playing historical films and even closing her contract with the Warner Brothers studios. Then working with other studios that were able to give her different roles and different plays. She was able to play Queen Elizabeth I again in 1955 in the movie The Virgin Queen. She was even had time to play with other actors and actresses in that were big at the time, even clashing with them, clashing with actresses such as Joan Crawford at who was also a big actress, but would later become bigger and even go up against other actors in the 1960s to become the next leading star. Personal life and final years. She was married to at least four times in her life. Her first husband was Harmon Nelson from 1932 to 1938. Second husband was Arthur Farnsworth from 1940 to 1943. Third husband was William Sherry from 1945 to 1950. Her final husband was Gary Merle from 1950 to 1960. She was able to have three children based on her relationships and even spend some time in both Hollywood, both in film and television, and sometimes spending time with her family in her private life. The 1960s had Bette Davis working on television based on her stardom and renewing her brand as a leading star, but would now be getting roles that were more supporting star status based on her age, and now would star in up with upcoming actresses and actors. She starred in television series such as Perry Mason, and then working on westerns as an older lady rather than her younger years. She would also work on movies such as Dead Ringer in 1964 and The Nanny in 1965. In the 1970s, her star began to decline and would see her working on movies that would have her playing as an elderly lady. Movies such as Death on the Nile in 1978 would have her playing as this type of character. Yet in the 1980s, the great Bette Davis would lose her star and would start working on smaller productions on television and then finishing her movie career. Her final film career or movie career was Wicked Stepmother in 1989, and the last television appearance was on The Late Night Show with David Letterman in that same particular year. Legacy of a Young Starlet. Bette Davis passed away from cancer on the 6th of October 1989, as she was able to finish her final film performance just before her death, and had some health problems based on her age of 81 years old. Her legacy was based on her acting career and sometimes supporting people who needed it, working with actors and actresses that were new at the time, and even was able to work with various film productions and various film industries during the 1930s to the 1950s, where she was able to become a star and slowly lose it in the later years. She was inducted in various organizations based on her films and would be classed as one of the great actresses in classic Hollywood, and even having a star on Hollywood Walk of Fame. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so. I'm Suki Cookie, and please check out my other videos. Thank you.